Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. I am so happy to be here with you today, and I thank you for the time that you are sharing with me. I have such an important topic to share with you because we've gone through a very difficult time in our lives. All of us have. And we've been inside, and now we're seeing rallies, and we're dealing with the virus, and there's so much going on. And people are losing their businesses, and many of them have been inside too long with their spouse, and things are happening with their marriage, and suicide is on their minds. I'm hearing it so much from clients that suicide is what they're thinking. They want to get out. They want to leave the earth. They want it to be over with. And I thought it might be a good time to talk to you about why people feel this way, why they do it, and what you do with that, because none of us know what to do with what we're left with when someone commits suicide. So hang in there for just a minute, and I will be right back. And welcome back to our topic today on suicide. It's not something I love to talk about, but I'm going to try and do this delicately so that you will understand what the other person was thinking and also understand how you can think when it happens, because you're the one that gets left behind, right? You're the one that has to go on in the difficulty and the realization of what has happened. And I just want to give you a few statistics because you won't believe this. I didn't believe it when I looked it up. But every year, more and more people are choosing suicide over retirement, which I thought was really interesting. And did you know that suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the world? The 10th leading cause. And between the ages of 10 and 34, suicide is the second leading cause of death. And it's the 10th leading cause in the whole world. So that gives you an idea of the vastness of how many people are doing this. And men, when they attempt suicide, they are 3 times more likely to achieve their goal. And in 2017, the CDC reported that 38,000 people died in the US between the ages of 16 and 64. 16, can you imagine what a 16-year-old feels like? And they go through so much in high school. They're so ridiculed and they're so abused and battered, and the slightest little thing can throw them off. And then when they don't have the support of someone at home, it gets even worse. And parents don't even know this is happening. I had Dr. Beth on the show not too long ago, and she talked all about how the kids don't have anywhere to turn. And that's why that 16-year-old issue. And it goes all the way to 64, as I said. And it's currently, wait till you hear this, it's currently at the highest level since World War II. That's amazing, isn't it? And I imagine after all this staying in place and all the things that have been going on, it's going to get a lot worse. So let's look at life. It's pretty challenging, wouldn't you agree? I mean, it's extremely difficult. And once you get done with one challenge, another one suddenly shows up. We don't even have control of how many challenges we're trying to deal with at one time. And sometimes we're juggling 3 and 4 and 5 at the same time. I'm pretty good with 4, but when you get me to 5, I'm over the top. So when we're living this roller coaster of life and we are challenged over and over and over again, then we get worn down. We aren't so sharp. And a lot of times people become depressed and morose and sad, and they'd rather hide out than be out in public. So they start hanging out at home in the darkness, and they don't eat, they don't exercise or communicate with family or friends. And they'd rather just throw the covers over their head and say, I'm done, and sleep day after day after day. Worse yet, and if you've been on the other side of this, and I have been, most people don't know how to support them. That's the really difficult thing. And they tell them, just snap out of it. You don't have to be like this. You could change if you want to. And this makes it even worse. It's the worst way to approach this situation. And it's not possible for them to just snap out of it. So then they go to a doctor and they get put on drugs, and then the drugs don't interact well in their system. It just snowballs. It absolutely snowballs. So many of them start self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, and they get deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And either they can't get off of the alcohol or the drugs, or they just stay in it and their whole life falls apart as they move through that period of time. And that's really sad as well. So the concern that I have right now is that you know what's happened to the market, and it happened 10 years ago too. And all these people, these seniors, have their money in their 401k. And when you have your money in your 401k, it's usually in mutual funds. And when the stock market plunges, the stock market drips blood, and so does your account. So last time in 2008, 2009, when we had the big banking debacle, all kinds of seniors, millions of seniors, lost all of their money. And when they lost all their money, they ended up working at box stores. You see them. They're still trying to make just enough money to survive. They had thousands and thousands of dollars, but having it in the stock market, I think, and I've been a certified financial educator, is like gambling your money, because you put it in there and then you have no control over what happens to it after that. So these people end up in retirement living like paupers when they've worked so hard all their lives, and they're angry about it too. They're really, really angry about this, because all the years that they've spent toiling away in a cubicle or on a line trying to make car parts or whatever it was doing, they didn't love that life. They hated that life. They just did it so that they could accumulate their money and live in peace for retirement. And I know this because my grandfather did this, and my mom did this at school. She taught kids. She loved teaching the kids, but it was hard work. It wasn't easy. So now they're at an age where they're in their 70s and late 70s, early 80s, and they're wondering, who's going to take care of me? And they're so scared that as their body begins to age and decay, that they'll end up in an expensive home, and none of them have the money for an expensive home, right? In fact, most people don't even want to go to a home. They'd much rather stay home than go to a home. But where are they going to get the money? And when they see that this isn't possible, they decide it's time to go and give up the struggle that they've been fighting their whole lives and just leave. They'd rather have retirement in death than they would in struggling to take care of themselves. I was watching on the news the other day about a Japanese woman, or excuse me, a Chinese woman whose children were no longer taking care of her, and she was getting dementia and trying to take care of herself. And she was just sobbing, because it's always been the way of the Chinese to take care of their parents. just as they were taken care of as children. But now the kids don't have the money to do this. So they deserted her and left her, and she's just, oh, she's in such bad shape. But she's not even in good enough shape to think about committing suicide because of the dementia. And she feels lost and abandoned, believing that there will never be anyone there for her again. And the other problem is the son that was going to take care of her died of the virus. So you see, there's a mix. There's all kinds of different pieces that people are going through in life in order to make life work. You could call them a mix of, why don't we call it a puzzle pieces? You know, have you ever seen the thousands of puzzle pieces that come in a box? I can't do those. I hate puzzles. It's hard enough for me to help people put the puzzles of their life back together. But anyway, these puzzle pieces, any one of them can collapse at any time. So let's talk about a few things that could collapse. How about losing their wealth? Just like what I just talked about. And a lot of families are losing family members right now. I know where I live, there's only 17,000 people. And when we hear that they've died and they're pillars of the community, it hurts my heart. It just hurts my heart. And it hurts these family members' hearts too. Or maybe, what about their business? How many businesses have you seen that are closing now as a result of being on lockdown? And now people are afraid to go out. So businesses also collapse. That's another piece of their life. And so they just develop this feeling of wanting to give up and let go, believing that there will never be anything better. Now let's talk about the reason that these pieces are perceived as collapsing. And that's because we have expectations designed in our mind to strive for, right? Goals. Everybody says, oh, what is your goal in life? What are you going to do? What is going to be better for you in your life that you're going to strive for? Some people say, what is your why? That's another one. What is your why? Well, when these expectations aren't met, people seek suicide because they're lost and struggling in their lives. So all of us have this mental image that doesn't reflect life as it is within. Did you get that? Everyone has a mental image that doesn't reflect life from within. In other words, it doesn't reflect what we want in life. And so we keep striving and striving and striving. And when we don't get it, then we worry. Oh my gosh, we get so worried and so anxious and have so much anxiety. And sometimes we say, I just can't do this anymore. I'm so done. I can't do it. And when you focus on the unjustness in the world, you decide that life is not worth living and it would be easier to go. Now, the reason I'm talking to you about this today is because there have been two people in my circle that have recently committed suicide. And once they do go, the family is overwrought with pain and guilt, absolutely racked with pain and guilt. And they come to me for help. And during their mental transformation, we talk about this. And here's what they say to me. And if you've ever had someone commit suicide in your life, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. They say, if I'd only known, I could have done something about it. Why didn't he come to me? We've always been so close. And he just left the earth without even telling me. How could he do that? That's so selfish. Well, my guess is that he did tell you, but just not in a way of saying, oh, I've decided that I'm going to leave this earth and here's how I'm going to do it. What happens is they suddenly realize that they came into the world on their own and they can certainly go out of this world on their own. They don't need any help to do that. There's a lot of ways to do it. So then they decide how they want to do it and there's plenty out there to give them the information that they need in order to accomplish this goal. And in fact, they will even feel a sense of euphoria. Science has proven that they walk around in this sense of euphoria. And if you watch the pattern that they are experiencing, you'll know where they're headed, because they'll be happy because they're planning their way out. They know that it's going to come to an end and they don't have to do it anymore. So may I share a story with you? Yeah? Okay. I had a very dear friend named Ryan. And with a group, we traveled through Hong Kong together, and we trekked 37 miles up and down the Annapurnas in Nepal. And it was the most grueling experience I've ever had. I mean, it was 10,000 miles up and 10,000 miles down, or 10,000 feet up and 10,000 feet down. And it was really hard, and we were in monsoon season, so there were the way they make their stairs going up and down the Annapurnas is all on limestone, so it was very slippery because it was monsoon season. So it took us days to get up there, and when we got up there, we were so tired. And a couple days went by, and Ryan and I were sitting on the mountain together. And I could remember the wind blowing past us. It felt so nice. And the sun was on our shoulders. And we had these beautiful, majestic mountains out in front of us. And some had snow on them. It was phenomenal. And this was in 2008. And as we're sitting there, he's telling me how his marriage is going down the tubes. His business had already completely failed, which is why he took this trip, because he wanted to get out of the area that he lived in and wanted to get away from it all. And he felt judged by the people he was closest to at his church. Well, his mind was out of control. It had taken over running his life, and he was depressed and sad, and yet he really didn't show it when we were around all these other people. I never would have known. But he hadn't learned how to manage his mind, so he began thinking that it was impossible to go on. And I think he prepared in his mind on this trip how he was going to leave Earth. Now, he didn't discuss this with me, and if he had, I would have talked to him. And I did talk to him about his business, and I talked to him about his marriage, because I knew his wife. She's a lovely lady, but they just weren't connecting anymore. And his mind was in complete control. And I told him, I said, let's just sit here and be quiet and listen to the wind and the mountains and the trees, and let's just take in nature. Nature is always very healing, watching animals and watching the trees sway. So he had a really great trip. But when he got home, he had planned in his mind that it was done. And he didn't tell anybody. And he went and he visited all his family members and told them how much he loved them. And he spent about a month with all of his family members. And when he got home, it was just about Easter time, maybe a week away from Easter. And he had asked his daughter to come for Easter because he was alone. And he was in a new place, even because he had to split up with his wife and go live elsewhere. And he was just in a room, not even any place that was nice, because he didn't have the money. He had no more work. And his daughter said she was going to come, but then 3 days before that, she decided she couldn't come because she had to stay at home for work. They wouldn't let her leave. And so he called his brother, who was in Texas, and begged him to come. Please come, he said. Please come. I want to see you. You know, I need you to come and be with me for Easter. But his brother said that it was too short a time frame to get a flight. And so he didn't come. So the next thing I heard I thought I would see him for Easter. The next thing I heard was that he had tied himself up in his car and lit himself on fire. And there was nothing left. The car was just a shell. And don't think I don't think about him every Easter morning. I can't have an Easter without thinking about Ryan and the pain that he must have been feeling. Let me share with you that leading your mind toward transformation is the most important activity in a human being's life. If you don't learn to control your mind, then your mind is going to control you. And you're always going to be striving for something new. You're always going to be upset when one of the pieces collapses. And the only way to control your mind is through yourself, through a transformation, so that you stop the bitterness. You stop abusing others. Because once your mind decides it's not worth living, you'll be gone. That's how it works. You leave just that fast. And I promised you I was going to talk to you about how those who are left behind should be receiving this. Because right away, we start to feel guilt and sadness. But we have to learn to respect their decision so that we can be at peace and go on living our lives. Please understand that you are not the only one who cares about this person. And yes, you probably did stand by to support this person as they move through the agony of their collapsed pieces. You were there for them. You cared for them. You loved them. You listened, just like I listened to Ryan. I was right there just before he died. He was divulging to me his deepest fears, his concerns, and he didn't know what to do with his life. And I couldn't coach him then. He didn't ask me for coaching. And I don't coach people who don't ask me for help. That's just the way things are. Because if they're asking for help, then yes, they're reaching out. They want to make the shift. They want to overcome the pain that they're experiencing. They want to get over the collapsed piece or pieces that they have at that time. And they're willing to accept help. But if they don't ask for it, there's nothing you can do. And they do reach out to you, just like he reached out to me. But he had already made his decision, and it was too late. It's only that they don't blatantly say to you, I'm done here, I'm moving on, and I'll see you on the other side. They don't say that. So when this happens, the grief and the guilt is excruciating for those left behind. And let me tell you something, it wasn't a selfish thing. They didn't do it with the intention of hurting you. In that euphoria, they don't think about anybody but themselves and the fact that they're going to be leaving Earth. That's it. They have nothing else in mind but that. But yes, you get left behind. But I'm going to tell you a little secret about your grief. And it's just the result of your soul wanting to go to. Your soul knows that this person has returned home, returned to the place where it came from. And helping your soul understand that it's not time for you to go, that you have work to do here, that people need you still, and your job here isn't done, then your soul will settle down and understand. The thing is that we get caught up in the grief and the pain. How could he leave me? Why would he not tell me he was going to do this? I could have saved him. Why? And there is no why. They're not thinking about anyone else. except they want to leave. They're tired of being depressed. They're tired of struggling. Many people are tired of working so hard to make money and then have it all disappear before they're supposed to, well, they used to say, live their golden years. Think about it. Or they think that there'll never be anyone else for them because they've been with one person for 30 some years. It's not like that. Life can go on, and life always does. Did you notice that even though this person passes over, you just keep moving forward? You have to. And yes, the tears come to your eyes and you can't stop them, and I call them leaking. Some people call them angel tears. They come to your eyes. And I remember when my mom passed, she didn't commit suicide, but when she passed, I ended up standing in front of shoe rack after shoe rack after shoe rack. And then I'd go, why am I here? Well, she's the one that loved the shoes. She's the one that had the huge collection of shoes. And somehow I related to her when I was standing in front of a shoe rack. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. Just help your soul understand. Have a little talk with your soul. It's not time to go. And if you can't do this for yourself, then find someone to support you in moving through this pain. Because the last thing that we want you to do is become a statistic with the CDC. We don't want you to leave others feeling guilt and the pain that you feel now. So don't think, I don't think about my friend every Easter Sunday. And so what I do is I go out, I put my hands up, and I send him love and wish him well and go on living my life, because I have work to do here on earth. It's not time for me to go, and I must continue living on. So everyone, I hope that I gave you some good information today, some information that'll make a difference in your life. And perhaps if you've lost someone, it'll help you move forward in your life. And if you need help, I'm here for you. I'll put a link down below. You can read a little bit about me and connect with me if you'd like some help. But thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very appreciative that you're here and that you show up every Wednesday to learn something new. And I wish you the very best of this week. Please stay safe and honor our guidelines. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.